Hey, Maniacs, welcome back to Building Character. I'm Rick. That guy on the far end there, you know who that is. That's Kurt. And with us from Hunters Entertainment, correct?
Yep.
Is Alex. And Alex has worked on keeping everybody straight when designing a certain game we're going to talk about. Tell us a little bit about Kids on Bikes.
So Kids on Bikes is kind of a collaborative storytelling-driven game. It's a lot less focused on mechanics and really more focused on getting all the players and the GM just collaboratively working on that story. And the premise is around big adventures in small towns.
All right.
So really anything in the whole Kids on Bikes genre kind of falls into this kind of game.
Okay.
You can take anything from your Stranger Things, where you've got crazy supernatural stuff going on, to something more mundane like Stand By Me.
Makes
so
sense.
it's just the kids
Right.
going out on an adventure.
Okay. So what we're going to be doing there, as we do on Building Characters, we're going to build a world. Is that right? First,
Correct.
And then we're going to
Correct.
build characters collaboratively.
Yep.
So I'll absolutely be doing everything I can to make him out to be the kid that nobody in the neighborhood wants to hang out with.
I'm
but
literally the
has
only one that
to.
doesn't have a bike. I have a big wheel.
Right. The green machine.
That's all.
Yes,
Every
green
group
machine.
needs one. Every group needs one. So yeah, I mean, with Kids on Bikes, one of the unique things about the character creation process is, as you were mentioning there, we actually start with a collaborative world building.
Okay.
So since we don't have a defined setting, and this is kind of a sandbox game where you can tell whatever stories you
Sure.
want, the group will actually work together to go ahead and build the world that they're actually going to
Okay.
be taking part in. So
Awesome.
by the time you actually hit the game running, everybody's already invested in the town, the setting, and their characters. So it's kind of an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah, buy-in, you have it immediately. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically what we do for the world building is it's just a series of questions that I kind of ask out to the group.
Okay.
And you guys will collaboratively work on what you think is the best options for these.
Okay.
So, for instance, the first question that we normally like to ask is, our adventure takes place in, and we want a name of a town
Okay.
and state that it's going to take place in.
All right. Well, you're from New York, right?
Sure.
So we're not going to go there.
Sure.
Put you out of your
Because you're
comfort
the new
zone.
kid.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
also a new kid on the block. So
I like it. So I don't know where I'm going.
How
so.
about Claire, Michigan?
Claire, Michigan?
Claire, Michigan.
Claire, Michigan.
It's right in the dead center. It's an actual place right in the dead center of Michigan, which probably is on a ley line and probably bad
I
things.
want to be closer to like the endless forests of Michigan.
Well, that's
Okay.
I mean, Michigan
Is an
above,
endless forest?
above Detroit is an endless forest.
Wow.
And if you're going with the landlocked center of the state kind of
Yeah.
area there, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very probable that
I
you've
like
got
it,
some forestry
Claire.
going on.
Claire, Michigan.
Claire,
Okay.
Michigan. So, in Claire, Michigan, what is the industry that our location is best known for?
Oh, today or in 1983.
Well, that's another question that we can actually go ahead and ask, and since that's going to have some context on this one, is we will want to decide what era we want our game
Sure.
to take place in. Now, a lot of times we recommend going with something like 80s or a little bit earlier, because that's going to put you in kind of that Goonies type of a situation
Sure.
where there's not cell phones, people
Right.
aren't instantly connected, but it still does work in modern times. So if we wanted to go that route, we could.
Yeah, I like it. I like it like the early 80s.
Yeah.
Early
Yeah.
80s.
Early to mid.
Yeah, like 83. Let's go 83.
Okay, so 83, and
So
it would
so
be.
Jedi came out, right? 83?
Something
I
like
want
that.
to say, yeah, I want to say it
All
was
right,
83.
Good time. Good time to be
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
So, with it being 83, at this point in time, what would the industry in our town be?
It would be tourism and hunting and fishing.
That makes sense.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So probably taking care use of a few like landlocked lakes and things like
Yeah.
that, streams.
Okay.
And now is when we start getting into a little bit more of the fun stuff. So the town is famous for what?
The town is famous for, well, technically two things. We're going to go with the Bow Hunters Rally that happens every year,
Okay.
and the Bald-Headed Bear, a legendary creature.
yes.
The Bald-Headed
Ah.
Bear of Clare County.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the movie The Great Outdoors?
Yes.
The Bald-Headed Bear of Clare County.
Was that really in there?
Yes.
All right, that is a
All
well-known
right.
bear.
So we got two things that we're famous for. Now, the flip side of that coin is our town is also infamous for something. Something bad, not necessarily, at least in the shade of gray area has
All right.
associated.
Okay. So Dow Chemical is in Michigan.
I'm sorry?
Dow Chemical
Yeah.
is in Michigan. It's
Sure.
in Midland.
Yeah.
But they may want to be branching into Clare. That might be like something. It's not
Okay.
something
Or a
like-
water runoff.
right. And there's a Boy Scout camp in Clare called BB Lake Boy Scout Camp, and there's always like trucks going on there on the off season.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Is there though?
so
Yeah,
Dow
it's real.
is looking to kind of move into the area there, and that's disturbing some of the local traditions, so
Yeah.
to speak.
You're
Okay,
gonna lose your Dow sponsor for this.
Sorry, there, Dow.
you're not as affiliated in any way. We absolutely understand. So economically, though, the town is prospering, floundering,
It's
maybe stagnant.
it's stagnant. It's kind of status quo. Hasn't no influx. Nothing's changed over a long time.
The sleepy, boring town.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's been desperately kind
Yeah.
of clinging on to those traditions.
Yeah.
The new industry's trying to force its way in, but they're being heavily resistant to
All
that.
right.
All right. So next, a notable local organization. Now we did kind of touch on that because we do have the Bow Hunters Club.
Yeah.
So do we want another one on top of that, or is that going to kind of fit well for
The
what we've
Bow
got
Hunters
going?
Club might be something interesting because maybe because there's a lot of bow hunting that goes on in that area. Dow Chemical may be coming in. Maybe there's more sightings of things. Maybe hunters are going missing.
Okay. The bear that we have in the
Maybe,
area
yeah.
has maybe been seen a few more times as of late.
Right? Yeah.
Bald-headed bear.
All right. Well, and this one we may have answered as well. So we'd want to also establish a notable local landmark. Now, we did mention that lake, BB Lake,
BB
which
Lake.
has the Boy Scout camp on it.
Mhm.
So, again, that could be our notable landmark, or maybe we have
Pretty good.
more than one.
Well, there is always the. There's the fairgrounds. I mean, that was a pretty notable.
So notable.
space. Hey, back in 1983, it was.
It was the place to
space.
be. The
It
place to
was
be
the
in
place.
83.
And then there's Bud Lake. So one of the things about that Clare County, the city of Clare, and around that area, 20 lakes in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Lots of lakes.
Okay.
That
You need one of those overlays of "Welcome
Yeah.
to Clare County."
We'll whip up a graphic even though
Thanks
we're
for
live. It's
visiting.
fine.
Right. Johnny's got time.
So like BB Lake or Bud Lake.
Sure. Bud Lake.
Bud Lake.
BUD.
BUD.
I like it.
All right, yeah. And then finally, our school sports team is called what?
The Cavaliers. It's not Claire's actual thing,
You can
but
do
the
better than that.
Cavaliers is
Is
nice.
that the-
Well, what do you got?
I know, right? I would like something.
The Clowns. Clare County Clowns.
The Squirrels.
Ooh, squirrels.
Clare County Squirrels.
All right.
The
That-
fighting
the
squirrels.
fighting
The
Squirrels.
Fighting Squirrels.
Mm.
Fantastic.
All right.
So the Clare County Fighting Squirrels.
I'd go to their games.
Now the last final touch that we're going to add to this town, because at this point we've kind of got a good picture actually building up
Sure.
of the area that we're going to be playing in, but we want you guys to inject a little more life into it. So each one of you is going to go ahead and provide a rumor that is currently spreading around town. It may be true, it may not.
A rumor is that his character's father, who is a
just moved here.
surveyor,
The new kid.
is actually a Dow Chemical agent.
The agent.
Yeah. 'Cause
A
that's
chemical agent.
chemical agent.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
I approve of the wordplay.
I like it. All right, the rumor that I heard in the short time that I've been here, this new town, is there's something fishy going on with the Fighting Squirrel football team and their no-loss record for this season,
Ooh.
when previous seasons have been no-win records.
A little
Whoa.
Explain.
shadiness going on in the sports department here, it sounds like.
The
All
new,
right.
The new coach that nobody knows about. I'm just saying, there's something weird going on.
All right. Well, that's going to go ahead and obviously get us a place in the world that our story is going to take place here. So at this point, what we want to do is we're actually going to go ahead and get our characters going, and this process will kind of run through in tandem.
Okay.
So the first thing that you're going to want to do in Kids on Bikes is you're going to want to pick what trope you're going to play.
I like it.
So this is going to be anything from the classic Kids on Bikes genre of games. You could have the brutish jock. You could have the popular kid. You could have the funny sidekick. And these can also be of any potential age range. So we don't actually, even though the game is called Kids on Bikes,
Sure.
we don't lock you into being just a kid. So there's room for kids, teens, and adults because, again, with the modern equivalent with Stranger Things, that story involves the whole spectrum.
Sure,
So these stories can do the same.
Curiosity, Rick, without thinking, what would you think my trope would be that I'm choosing? I'm just curious.
Oh, I'm hoping for the lone weirdo.
All right, well, that's not what I was going for.
The loner weirdo.
I was going to go with the mouthy outcast.
Is there a mouthy outcast?
Well, it's not one of the ones that we have
No, let's see what
pre-built
we got.
as a recommendation, but you can always go ahead and make your own. So we do have a few pre-built recommendations
Cool.
in the book. Let me go ahead and pull that
Mouthy
up here.
outcast.
So we've got all the way from we've got a blue-collar worker, a brilliant mathlete, the brutish jock, the bully, the conspiracy theorist, the funny sidekick, the laid-back slacker, the loner weirdo, the overprotective parent,
Phenomenal.
the plastic beauty, the popular kid, the reclusive eccentric, the scout, the stoic professional, the wannabe, or the young provider. All would be potentially viable character options.
All right, funny sidekick it is.
And I'm
All right.
Scout.
The funny sidekick and the scout. All right. And are you feeling like for the scout, or are we more of an adult, teen, kid?
I'm gonna go with like that. Like not quite into high school yet. Like maybe just going into 8th grade high school.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
at the cusp of teen, basically.
Yeah.
I
And
kind
how
of
about
like.
on this side?
I
Like
kind of like to
14.
go back to the idea of the big wheel and maybe going even younger. Maybe 8, 9, 10, maybe.
Okay.
Keep it
okay.
pretty
All
young.
right, so I'm gonna go 14.
Got my green machine.
I'm gonna say I'm 14.
And you're going to shoot for an 8, 9 in that area there? All right, so that's the first portion, actually, of the second step. So actually, this character creation process, once we get to this, it's actually really just 5 steps.
Okay.
So the second step consists of picking your age, your strength, flaws, and your first name. So these are your trope-related items.
Okay.
Now, based on your guys' tropes, let me go ahead and pull that list back up real
I
quick.
like the loner weirdos. Great. Phenomenal.
So we've got a scout here. Now the scout, some various options for you. Possible flaws or likely flaws that this scout would have would be absent-minded, blunt, boastful, conceited, dogmatic, inconsiderate, patronizing, restless, slovenly, superstitious, vain, or vindictive. Those all are fairly good options for
And
the.
how many of those can we take?
So you'll want to take at least one flaw for your
All right,
character.
I'm going to take slovenly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went with the
funny sidekick.
sidekick. Here we go. So we've got, for them, these are, again, just the likely flaws. So if you want to go with something different, you're more
No,
than
these
welcome
are these
to.
are all pretty great actually.
But yeah, absent-minded, boastful, clumsy, flippant, neurotic, obnoxious, perverse, picky, restless,
Oh, wow.
slovenly again, or superstitious.
What's the most you can take?
I mean, basically you can take as many as you want. So
That's
the
what you want.
flaws, really, the main thing with them is their role-playing cues.
You're right,
for
and that's
you.
great.
So as long as you're not bogging yourself down and leaving yourself at a point where you're like, I
have
don't
too
know how
many
to
things,
represent
right,
all
yeah,
these
yeah.
things.
I'm also going to take superstitious.
Superstitious as well.
Just seems like
Those
this
seem
character-
like a fun combination
Yeah.
to run
especially with his
there.
dad.
So I'm a restless, neurotic 9-year-old.
Oh,
me
that's a fantastic
I'm excited.
character. And we can also go ahead and get our strengths. So now with selecting our strengths, what we'll want to do, you're going to pick 2 strengths for your character. Now, again, you can take that from the recommended list, or you can go ahead and pick any of them that you
And
think
where do-
are.
and we just mark off on
Yep,
here where we
just
are.
check off which ones you're going to go ahead and grab. And for those watching at home here, I'll go ahead and give you a quick rundown of what their options are on their tropes here. So for our scout, there would be cool under pressure, intuitive, lucky, prepared, skilled at blank, or being a treasure hunter. And any of those would be viable. Were those any of the ones that you
So I
went
took
with?
cool under pressure.
Okay.
And also lucky.
Went with lucky as well.
Yeah.
All right, not a problem at all.
I'd also
And
like to say hi
then-
to Sarah, who's watching us on Twitch.
Aha, hello. It's nice to see you. And for our funny sidekick, you've got the options of easygoing, gross, heroic, protective, skilled at blank, or treasure hunter. And again, those are just the recommendations. So do we jump with any of those?
I know. I think I went off the cuff. I went loyal and wealthy. I'm the rich kid.
Loyal and wealthy.
Dang it.
Okay. The funny sidekick,
Which also
rich
lends
kid.
to the fact that your father is an agent.
I know. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
All right. So we'll give you a quick rundown of what those strengths actually do for you guys.
Cool.
So unlike the flaws where they're just kind of role-playing fodder, these actually do have some mechanical effect.
Cool.
So we'll see cool under pressure. You're going to be able to spend 1 adversity token to take half of your die's value instead of rolling on a snap decision. So what that means essentially is when you're rolling in this game, you want to be able to roll low.
Right.
So any time that you can take half your die's value is getting you closer to a lower number. So a lot of times that can be an auto success.
That's pretty cool.
Now, normally you can't spend adversity tokens on snap decisions for that, but your ability for cool under pressure allows you to do so. So you can actually spend adversity on a snap decision. Then for your other one, lucky, you can actually spend 2 adversity tokens to completely re-roll a stat check if you need to.
And I probably will.
Now, the way adversity tokens work, since we're talking a little bit about those are actually something that you'll earn in-game while playing Kids on Bikes. So basically, when you fail a roll in-game, rather than just having you deal with consequences, we also give you a little bit of encouragement for later on. So you pick up an adversity token at that point that can then be spent later for something beneficial.
That's awesome. I like that.
Now, on your side of the coin, we went with loyal, which means each of the adversity tokens you spend to help one of your friends will give them a +2 instead of a +1.
Okay.
So normally you can do that and give him a +1 on his roll just to help him out.
Sure.
But now you can actually get a +2.
Nice.
So with wealthy, that one. So money in this game works a little abstract. So basically,
which is great.
what we do is kids basically generally don't really have much wealth.
Right.
Teens have moderate, and then an adult can pretty much, they're at a place where they can buy what they need if they need to.
Right.
So what this allows you to do is you may spend money as though you were in a higher age bracket.
Okay.
So for a child, you can pretend like you're a teen.
Okay.
So
where you couldn't afford to go to the movies and see Jedi, I could.
Right.
Exactly.
And would probably front you.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
If you weren't such a jerk.
If I wasn't so slovenly.
So that covers our strengths, then it covers our flaws. So the only part that we have left on that second step is to actually go ahead and pick your first name.
Okay.
And we only want to do first name right now, and we'll get to why later.
Oh, wow. Well, hey, Sarah, tell us what my first name should be for my character while Kurt
Chat
works on his.
participation.
Wow. We just deflect. Yes, Sarah, me too.
But before you come up with his, make sure you come up with mine.
So we're doing this one.
Sarah.
We're doing the scout first, then we're doing the sidekick.
Wow.
But also, you have a friend over here who's taking video and pictures.
Yes, that's true. You want to kick out a name
if
over
you
here
pick a name
from
out
the
of our
sidelines?
characters? Edgar?
Edgar.
I'll take Edgar.
All right, we got Edgar the scout.
That sounds like a good name for me.
Does it? I think
Yeah.
it's more.
Ed and Eddie?
I like it.
We could run with that. We absolutely could.
Do we have
Has
one?
chat kicked us?
Chuck.
Chuck.
Chuck for a little rich kid? Come on.
Nick.
Charles is better.
We got Chet.
We got Chuck and Nick.
Spectacular.
Nick Chuckerson.
Chester.
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 All right.
I like it.
Chet for short. I like it.
Chester, but goes by Chet.
I'd beat myself up.
All right.
At this point, while you don't have a ton of detail on your characters quite yet, what we would do at this point, and we can actually skip this one a little bit since we've kind of been chatting out loud about it, but this is where you would actually introduce your character to the rest of the group, so that way you could start getting an idea of what the rest of the table is working with, because as I mentioned, this is a very collaborative-based game, so you guys are always kind of working together.
Well, it just so happens they moved in next to me, my parents.
Oh.
And so I would be wearing my scout uniform all the time, but to spy on them because I feel like there's something going on.
Because they're the evil Dow spies.
Yeah, they're Dow.
All
Dow
right.
spies, Dow agents.
But because my family has money, we can afford shades, so it stymies you at every turn.
Every time. Foiled
Now,
again.
This is actually my favorite part of the actual character creation process. So we're going to flesh these characters out a little bit more. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to answer questions about one another's characters.
Okay.
Now, this portion gets really fun the larger the group that you have, because what you can actually do is you can have everybody do both a positive and a negative question for each character.
Okay.
And when you get that much detail bouncing around, like by the end of that, you have a fairly fleshed out character at your hands. We'll have a little bit less detail here since it is just the two of us, but we will go ahead and do both a positive and a negative question for each one of you.
Perfect.
So the way that we'll do this is we do actually have just right in the back of the book, we have a couple of appendixes that actually just run you through all of the different relationship questions and all of that. So we need a die, and we do have the handy dandy official Kids on Bikes dice here, which I'll go ahead and pop open.
Nice.
So basically the thing with these is you can use any dice that you want actually for Kids on Bikes. We do have an official set, and basically what it comes with is one of every die type, because while you're actually playing the game, you're going to associate dies to your character's stats here. So
and they're
essentially
beefy.
you have... And they're mixed as well, so it looks like a kid put the dice set together.
That's great.
So you got different sizes of dice there.
Spectacular.
Then additionally with that, this game also uses an exploding mechanic, so the highest value on every die uses the game's little skull logo, just to let you know that you've actually hit an exploding value, and that you can take the highest value and then roll again and add to it.
Wow.
Which also means that even if you're in a position where you've got just this one die sitting at a D4 and I end up giving you a target number of a 12, there's still a potential chance that you could succeed at that task, even though you don't have a die that would normally support it. Now, the trick with that is anytime a dice does explode, so for instance, we hit that 4 and we keep rolling and we finally do hit that 12, what that means in game is that you didn't actually manage this due to your own volition. So what you have to come up with in your narration is you will succeed at your task, but there has to be some kind of outside force that allowed that to happen. As an example that I give, if you're making a flight check to run away from a government stooge who's chasing after you,
his dad,
and I give you, say, a 6 as your target number.
All right.
You managed to hit a 4 and a 3, so you end up passing it, but you did it through an explode. What you might say is instead of just with your sheer athletic ability to run away, you actually ducked into like a warehouse, and as you were going in, your foot happened to catch the door hold lever, and that just caused the door to slam down shut behind you, not intentionally, just inadvertently blocking the path of the agent, allowing you to escape.
Nice.
So you get a little creative with the mechanics there at that way. But basically what you guys will end up doing here is we're going to end up rolling a 20-sided die to determine which questions we're going to be answering about the characters.
Yep. That's kind of neat.
Perfect.
So go ahead and give me a roll there.
A 14.
Right, 14. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. All right. So, and again, so the way these relations to the group questions kind of work, they work better or best, in my opinion, when you have a larger group. So what this would be is you would be in love platonically or romantically with a member of the group. And at this point, you would go ahead and decide which member of the group that you would do that with. In this situation, you only got one character choice, so you would be in love with this character,
makes sense.
But you get the choice of, do you want that to be a platonic love or a romantic love that your character feels?
I don't have any siblings. And I kind of see him as he could be my younger brother.
You may not trust my father, but...
Right.
But
You're
the
new
kid himself is all
Everybody else
right.
is picking on you. Nobody trusts you. I don't trust your
You
parents.
just want somebody covering your costs.
You might be in duress as a child of a Dow chemical agent.
All right. All right.
Child of duress.
Let's go ahead and get a die roll from you
right.
over here.
Ready for this?
Got a 7.
Lucky.
Okay, that one's going to be back over here. 2, 4, 6, 7. All right, so you are going to actually be completely trusting of a member of the group. In this instance, it will end up being this character.
Yeah.
What a bond we have made in the week that I've lived here.
Well, it has to do with the uniform. You trust the uniform, the Scout's uniform.
Scott's honor, baby.
Yep, something about the visual interpretation of him, so far has just given you an ease of mind.
Makes sense.
Basically, the way this ended up setting up, which is not always the case, sometimes there can be negative sentiments that you actually end up having about the other characters. You guys are basically actually set where it's going to be a very easy end to bring you two together as soon as the story kicks off. So that covers actually that portion of it. You can actually do more questions. So if you have a larger group, we recommend doing up to 2 to 3 questions potentially per player. Yep. Okay. So everybody will have a fair number of things actually associated to them by the end of it.
Okay.
But to make sure that we get everything kind of touched on here, we'll go ahead and jump forward. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to complete out the finishing touches of your character. Now this is where a number of additional topics start coming up. So first and foremost, every character should have a motivation. So the sheets themselves, which I'll go ahead and throw one up for the camera just real quick here for those playing at home. Kids on Bike sheets are super basic.
We're going to put it right here.
Over this way.
Yeah,
yep, there we go.
We're going right.
There we are.
In front of the book?
Put in front of the
Perfection. So, we've got a very basic sheet there. There's not really a whole lot to it because, again, this game is very narrative-focused. We try to keep dice rolling to an extreme minimum, just any situation where there really is that bit of chance to everything. You can go ahead and throw those in for just a quick mechanical relief to move the story forward.
Sure. Okay.
Now, what we're going to go ahead and take care of is each of you guys will go ahead and set a motivation. Now, it can be anything that you really want, honestly, for your motivation. Sometimes what I usually recommend is I like to, when I'm making a character for Kids on Bikes, is I try to take my motivation and ingrain it into some of the background elements of the city that we ended up building, so that way what I'm shooting for is also directly related to the world that we've also pre-created.
Okay.
Granted, that's not necessarily a requirement. You can go a completely unbeaten path and add more detail to the city, essentially, as you're going along with that. So what are we feeling for our folks here?
So I'm feeling for my motivation is I want to ensure that Claire is safe.
All right.
And that it takes a good scout to make it so.
All right, so you're concerned about some of these, especially these rumors that you've been hearing about things going on in the forest and all of that. All right. So you're concerned with the protection of the city.
I like it. My motivation would be to maybe get to know the town better, meet more friends, meet more people, and just get used to where I'm living. I've only been here a little while, so.
And potentially you could even add to that, since we've added in that rumor from the world-building portion about the rumor about your family, it could be to reduce the stigma towards your family.
I like it.
So that's a fairly straightforward motivation, and as you can see, a lot of times it just feeds right into what we have already going from the world building.
Right.
You're also going to go ahead and pick a fear. Now, a fear does have some mechanical effect, namely if you happen to come across it in the story, which any GM worth their salt is probably going to throw their fear at you.
As they should.
Basically, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to react in those particular situations. Now, you can be as broad or as confined with it as you want, just like fears in real life. So it may be something just as basic as a fear of the dark, or it may be like you can't stand
a thing.
Like a particular object being in the room or something like that.
Yeah, carnies, maybe, but I'm not putting that. Have you picked a fear already?
I have not. Have you?
I have.
Let's hear it.
Squirrels.
Not a fan of the mascot. Not a fan of the mascot.
That is the worst.
A squirrel came in my room one night when I was asleep. I was laying on top of my chest. I woke up and there it was, and it just ran over, just scared the crap out of me. I've always had a fear of it ever since.
I like it.
Yeah.
A fear for me would probably be enclosed spaces. I'm neurotic. I don't like having things around me. Keeping me in, so that's it. Like, yes, restrictions.
I can see that. Like, as the wealthy kid, you probably also got large rooms in the house and things like that.
I don't like being closed in.
All right.
Don't like it at all.
Which is going to tie very well back to your buddy here, since, Scout, you're going to want to be outdoors all the time anyway.
Since he lives in a cardboard box.
Yeah, it works very, very well. Then we can also go ahead and you can absolutely get your description in at this point, if you got an idea of what your character's already looking like in your head. For that, if you want, you can also hold off, because some people like to decide what their stats are first. So, like, if they decide they're going really high on fight, and that's going to be their real strong stat, then they want to be really muscular and all of that. So you You can do that now or hold off. The other final part is that we're going to pick our last name. The reason why we're waiting until now is because we can also decide, are you guys related? Are you cousins? You can actually establish pre-existing relationships within the group. Now,
Well,
it definitely sounds like not family with the...
Yeah, not family.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it the neighbor situation, that's
What's
fine.
that?
You want to stay with the neighbor situation?
Oh, I do. I
Yeah.
do. You're the new kid in town.
Yeah,
I'm a
fine.
scout, kind of
You're showing me around literally. 'Cause you're a scout.
Yeah.
and not out of some familial need or
No,
anything
no.
like that.
Just a nice person.
Well, Natasha Cannondale X is watching as well, and Sarah's still watching. So if they have any ideas for last names,
Last names from
You
the
know.
chat. Let's do it up. I'm all about that. And while we're waiting on them to go ahead and kick over some ideas, we can actually go ahead and jump forward to the next part. So that'll be associating your stats so that way you can do your descriptions. Now, basically, all that is you're assigning one of every die so that all of the stats eventually have a die type associated to them. You will then thus have one really strong skill, one really weak skill, and everything else kind of falling in between.
all right.
And if you want,
So-
there is the
oh, so
collaborative
you-
process, so you guys can coordinate this so that way you're like, if you want to make sure, like, okay, so
So-
you're going to be the fighter of the group and I'll handle this. And
So there's 8 to choose one from, right? You said
Yep.
you place them all. So why is there 2 stats? Like,
so basically, these are stats that are somewhat in opposition to one another.
Okay.
But we don't actually have a system in place that forces you to be like, okay, so I took a 20 fight, I have to take a 4 flight.
that's all right.
So,
Cool.
yeah, they don't pull on each other in any way, shape, or form,
Gotcha.
but they are kind of the polar opposites of one another.
I like it.
And for those that watching at home, the stats that they're working with and deciding on now are fight and flight, brains and brawn, charm and grit.
All right. So I'm going with a fight of 10. It will be my D10. Flight, a D4.
All right.
My brains, a D6. My brawn, a D12. However, as every good scout is, very charming to help the old lady across the street.
Oh, yes.
I have a high charm and then a D8 for grit.
It's a pretty strong grit. You got a good tenacity to you
Yeah.
as well.
I went 6 for fight, 10 for flight, 20 for brains, 4 for brawn, 12 for charm, and an 8 for grit.
Okay. We
That's
got
a nice
we got a
spread.
nice
I'm learning
spread
it.
here. Yeah, we got a very nice spread going on here. And did we get word back from our
We
chat
have.
folks? Awesome.
So Sarah says that your last name should be Worthington,
I like it.
or history professor Dave says McNutty.
I like them
Chester,
both.
is that a round of
I like 'em
applause
both.
from the peanut gallery?
Or McNutty. McNutty is really good. I've been told that I should be Edgar Sinclair,
Okay.
which I do like. Sinclair is cool.
It flows nicely.
It's a very dignified name for us.
It's also a old family name, one of the founding families of Clare County.
Okay.
Just so you know. Wow.
That look. Oh, that look. That is classic. All right. So the other thing that we need to go ahead and do here is as a teen, you get a +1 to brawn
Okay.
and a +1 to fight.
Nice.
Okay.
And as a child, you get a +1 to flight
Okay.
and a +1 to charm.
Did you just add it or put +1?
+1.
Okay, cool. And you said charm?
Yep.
Cool.
And basically what that means is anytime you're making a check on any of those, you just get to snap a +1 onto it
Nice.
instantaneously.
I'm okay with that.
Now, the very, very last part of your character creation before we would just dive into this world that we've created is we need to fill up our backpack with some stuff.
Nice.
So the backpack is essentially just the inventory in your standard role-playing game. Now, what I like to do is that the backpack I usually limit to about 3 items.
Okay.
And the way I describe it is these would be the 3 items that your character is essentially never without. Now, they also don't have to be items that would be relegated to an actual backpack. So,
Sure.
for instance, the teenager might always have his car with him.
Sure.
That would be a consideration. That could also obviously apply to an adult as well. For a kid, it could be something more esoteric, like maybe
Sure.
like he's always got his yo-yo on him.
Right.
Wow.
But I usually shoot for about 3 items there.
You write it right here?
Yep, right
All
on
right.
in the backpack.
I'm trying to think of things that were like readily available at that era that would be fun.
That is always a good one. So using the backpack as a way to throw in just the little tips of the hat to nostalgia in the game is a fantastic way to go about it. I know a lot of times we have players, especially when they're running in the 80s and things like that, they'll shoot for like Ghostbusters memorabilia and things like that. Just anything that was kind of popping at the time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men was coming very much back into vogue at that time. Star Wars very hot.
And then we also have to do our descriptions.
The descriptions,
Yeah.
yep. Now the descriptions, I always have a mixed feeling on those because
Sure.
when I'm role playing personally, I feel like a description can help absolutely.
Right.
But sometimes when you're not very descriptive, it leaves it up to the rest of the players at the table. So it kind of allows
little
everybody to
imagination.
have their
That's right.
own interpretation of what Edgar looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
I know what I'm expecting from Edgar.
Well, Edgar being slovenly
Yep.
isn't necessarily because he's like a filthy kid, but his mother has always bought his clothes 2 sizes too big because she's thinking ahead,
No,
saving money.
I hear it.
He's going to grow into it.
That's not what I think
So
of.
they're
when I
always
think
loose. He's always pulling his pants up. His shirt's always untucked.
love it.
He's just like he's disheveled all the time.
getting terrible haircuts.
Oh, the worst haircuts. Because mom does it because she doesn't want to take him to a
Sure.
barber. That's extra money. Well,
Yeah.
she can do it herself.
This
And
is all
she's
the
the
mission.
worst.
Snip, snip at home.
She is the worst.
Save that $5. Heck yeah.
Absolutely. All right. I love it.
So what did you put in your backpack?
What did you put in your backpack?
I asked first.
I got a calculator.
I can see that.
Okay. The old school, like football handheld video game, the big blocky ones.
Tecmo Bowl.
It was Tecmo. I think it was football, but
Yeah.
the precursor.
Oh, yeah.
to the other ones that was this way. It was
the Radio
vertical.
Shack version.
Yeah, it was bad. They're
It was
big,
bad.
clumsy, never worked. It was great. And my Star Wars notebook, Empire.
So I have a Rambo survival knife. Do you remember those with the compass on the top?
Yeah.
You mean
Oh,
the fake one or the real one?
Oh, it's totally fake because my
Okay.
mom couldn't afford that.
I mean, is it an actual knife or just rubber?
No, it's a real knife, but
Okay.
it probably would break if I actually used it.
Sure.
I got my Boy Scout handbook
Gotta have it.
and a Trapper Keeper.
Okay.
Trapper keys are
And
useful.
the nice part about that is you guys went with items that are going to be common, obviously, for your time period, but they're
Not necessarily useful.
not immediately useful. So it's going to leave a lot of creativity up during the course of the
Need a
session.
distraction? I'll hit that video game, throw it.
And then the nice part is essentially we basically got our world built up here. But basically with Kids on Bikes, at this point we could just dive right on in and actually get the game going.
Okay.
So there isn't a whole lot more to it necessarily than that. But we do actually have a bunch of different little worlds that we've actually put together for players. So these actually do come with various modifications, and this is actually just recently came out, so this is our Strange Adventures line. And basically, each one of these scenarios will have actually adjustments to the rules. It has alternative questions that would be different from the ones that we actually went through in the book, so that way they're a little more specific to the type of environment that they're trying to set up here.
Okay.
And the way we do all these is none of them are really done in a lock you in sort of way. So just like the rest of the game, these are still very sandboxy.
Okay.
But again, they do add some modifications. So if you do, and even with what we've done so far, you could even take one of these and slot it on top of what we've done already. So we could add a little bit more to it if we decided, for instance, we wanted to do What Lurks Beyond Southwood Drive as our scenario that we were going to jump into.
Easy to port it kind of on top of what we came up with. That's
We
cool.
got some extra little town creation questions that we can throw in there. So basically, you guys could answer things like, what is the only place you have refused to explore?
Sure. Yeah.
like
So we
Cemetery.
start getting it a little bit built out there
I like
further. We give you some ideas for powered characters. So if you're wanting to go with that Stranger Things
interesting.
vibe, you can get a nice, cool,
So
somewhat integrated.
When you are building your party, isn't there a rule in this book that you can, as a party create that
Yes.
character and then we
So-
universally control them?
Exactly. So the way we do the powered character, and we have one scenario that we given as an example that goes off the offshoot of this, but the standard way is so that no one feels left out. There's only one powered character in the group, so you
Okay.
basically have your 11 from Stranger
Sure.
Things. And then what ends up happening is the personality of this character can either be decided by the GM ahead of time, or we actually do have a special deck of cards that you can use to randomly draw out personality traits.
Okay.
Each player will get one personality trait. So if at any time we feel that the personality trait that you currently have is the one that would be kicking off in this scene
Okay.
because of whatever's playing
that's
out,
pretty cool.
you become the person in control of
That's
the
weird.
character.
I like
you
it.
can also randomly build their special powers with that same deck. So if you don't want to decide, okay, they have telekinesis and telepathy, you can just actually randomly pull a card out and be like, oh, they happen to have pyrokinesis. So that's what we're going to
Basically,
have with.
it'd be Data from Goonies. He'd
Yeah,
be superpowered.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
does the floating character, the superpower character, or whatever you want to call it, does it have to be a human?
No, it does not.
Really?
So we don't give a lot of specifics directly on how to go about, approaching like an alien or a monster as it. At least not stat-wise. Like there's
Right.
no specialized
Or a psionic
changes there.
bald-headed bear of Clare County?
But I mean, for instance, the powered character that I did here at Origins last year when we ran demos, we ran one called Terror at Chanky Cheeses. And so what it was is the powered character was actually one of the animatronics from within the pizza place that
Okay.
had come to life,
Yes.
as was the villain of the piece. So two animatronics had come
Okay.
to life in there. One was trying to help the kids and had some special powers, and the other one was actually trying to harm the kids and consume them, throw them into the ball pit of doom.
I can dig that.
That's spectacular.
That is awesome.
So yeah, the powered character, it's usually just going to be that kind of flip-flopping control throughout the game. However, we did pose one scenario that's kind of like a spin-off on X-Men or Alphas, where instead of doing it that way, everybody plays a powered character.
Okay.
You've just got your own stuff going on. You're basically like the X-Men running
Yeah.
around doing your stuff. So
Okay.
you can take it either way, but the default method would be a single power character if there is a powered
A shared
character, because
character,
you can
yeah.
absolutely choose not to.
That's cool.
So, with this game, there is like you have adventures or scenario potentials in this.
Yep.
What do you guys have a special name for those, don't you? Like
We call them adventure prompts. So
prompts.
it's because they aren't the linear path like you normally get in a lot of RPG adventures. We keep that very heavy sandbox mentality, and all the things provided in it are done in a way of being more like a recommendation. So instead of being like the NPCs in town, we say, here's some possible NPCs
I like
with
it.
a little bit of information, a couple possible points of interest, and we even give multiple possible powered characters. So if you, for instance,
Oh,
on this one,
psychic
we've got a
dog.
psychic dog,
Psychic
or an
bald-headed
adult
bear.
version of one of the kids who has been pulled from the future to save the kids from a terrible fate, happens to be the
okay.
powered character.
That's pretty cool.
I can dig that.
And if you go with the psychic dog, we give you special additional rules for the psychic dog, running with the pack, pets in peril.
Okay.
So, I
And
love
we
it.
also give you content warnings on all of these. So with the way each of them are designed, there is obviously at least a general intent being conveyed. So before you even dive into it, the very first thing on all of these is the content warning. So for What Lurks Beyond Southwood Drive, we have claustrophobia, dogs, mob mentality. We threw claustrophobia down twice.
It's important.
Temporal displacement, and violence against animals. So these are all potential things that, if they're just topics that aren't comfortable for you at a game table, you can go ahead and avoid this particular scenario. You know that's not one of the
Sure.
ones for you, and you just go find something else in the book that doesn't have all that. So we've got lycanthropy, missing parents, and violence against animals on this one.
All right. So no claustrophobia. Good to go.
Yep.
Those,
all right.
And those people against lycanthropy.
Right.
Yeah. If you got the problem with the werewolves,
hate those people.
maybe consider a different scenario there.
So one of the things I found very interesting about your adventure prompts is that, like you said, they're very sandbox. They're very like you could have an adventure prompt as a one sheet.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
this is your adventure prompt, and those could be like downloadable PDFs or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely,
As
absolutely.
as a community, you could be making your own adventure prompts and providing those for the rest of the community in a very simple way. 'Cause
And
it would be-
yeah,
it's pretty
I
cool.
mean, and that is something that we are looking into, even potentially exploring a little more. We've actually had some of our fans ask us about that. one of our other game lines, we do what's called Free Content Friday, where the first Friday of every month we release a 2 to 5 page PDF piece of content for one of our game lines.
Right.
And a lot of people have been asking now that we have Kids on Bikes and a few other lines, is there any chance of those getting featured in Free Content Friday?
Sure.
And I can let you folks know that we are absolutely looking into that. That is something that we do want to have down the line for you in the future. So very good chance of seeing some free Kids on Bike stuff over the years here.
Very cool. Now, where can somebody go to find out more information about this?
So you can find out about Kids on Bikes on our website, huntersentertainment.com. You can also go to renegadegamestudios.com. They're our official partner and primary distributor of the game. Additionally, through that distribution partnership, Kids on Bikes is found in pretty much any local game store. So anytime I stop in a place, I almost always see it on the shelf. So pretty much anywhere you want to go, you can get it. We also do have digital on DTRPG.
Oh, cool.
Nice. So if you guys are out there and you want to start to play another RPG that is something a little different, something that can throw some nostalgia effect on you, definitely pick up Kids on Bikes. Its price point is really affordable. It's easy to mention. It's only like $24, 25 bucks. And it has everything in this book right here to get you started.
Yep, all you need. And then things like this, so we are going to continue supporting the product. The title of this is Strange Adventures Volume 1. Take from that what you will.
That there will be another Volume 1.5. That's very exciting.
So, yeah, we do have plans for continued support for the game line, so don't expect to see it disappearing anytime soon. And for those of you going to free RPG Day events this weekend, or even here at Origins, because we're big believers in just because you came to the convention doesn't mean you should miss out on free RPG Day.
That's good.
Kids on Bikes, as well as our other game lines, are also going to be featured this year for free RPG Day, so check it out in your local game store and try a session out.
Nice, very cool.
Free RPG Day this Saturday, right?
It is this
Saturday.
Yeah. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was great being here.
Absolutely. Kurt?
Thanks, buddy. As usual.
All right, everybody. Make sure you check out all of the stuff that you missed today. If you missed it here on Twitch, you can go back and watch all the interviews. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with our next interview, which I want to say is on my list right here. Or it's on the screen.
You just look at it.
It looks like Warlord Games. Is that what it says?
That's what it says.
Yep, that's what we got there.
All right, so tomorrow, 10 a.m., Warlord Games, and all sorts of other amazing stuff.
Yeah, there is.
So make sure you stay tuned. Join us tomorrow. Ask all the cool questions on the Twitch feed, and share us out there to the universe as well. Let all your friends know we're here all weekend at Origins. Again, thank you, Alex, and thanks to everybody over at Kids on Bikes and Hunters Entertainment and Renegade for letting you come over and
great.
Having fun with us this afternoon.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back tomorrow. I'm Rick with Game Trade Media, and I hope to see you at a game store.
Thanks for watching Building Character. If you liked it, leave a like and a comment below, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new content.